Hello, welcome to the Daily News Ukraine channel. Today is December 8th and our daily review of news about Ukraine. Mikhailo Podolyak, advisor to the head of the Ukrainian president's office, has named the Kremlin's bets for the current winter. He wrote this on his Twitter account, Ukrinform reports. Putin's classic triad, or the Kremlin's bets for this winter: 1. Genocidal energy attacks to leave millions without electricity and cause a flood of refugees. 2. An information campaign about the need for a ceasefire to end suffering. 3. Nuclear intimidation in case of defeat, Podolyak said. Read also, Ukraine to gradually receive from partners everything needed for victory. Podolyak, as reported by Ukrinform, Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal said that Russian attacks in recent months damaged 35% of key objects of the main electrical network. According to forecasts of the National Bank of Ukraine, NBU, the amount of international aid to Ukraine will exceed $31 billion by the end of the year. NBU Governor Andriy Pyshnyny said this at a briefing on Thursday, and Ukrinform correspondent reports. International financial assistance to Ukraine considerably increased in H2 2022. It is projected to exceed $31 billion by the end of the year, Pyshnyny said. He noted that international financial assistance needed to finance the budget deficit and restore the economy would continue to come in 2023 as well. More specifically, the European Union and the United States have already announced their preliminary intentions to provide Ukraine with €18 billion and about $10 billion respectively, Pyshnyny said. He reminded that the NBU made some progress in negotiating with the IMF a new monitoring program involving the IMF Executive Board. The complete approval of this program will contribute to attracting funding from other international donors in 2023. Read also, NBU leaves key policy rate at 25%. The NBU expects that an extended fund facility will be approved for Ukraine after the monitoring program expires. As reported, the International Monetary Fund has been supporting Ukraine since the beginning of the full-scale invasion. In March 2022, Ukraine received $1.4 billion under the Rapid Financing Instrument, RFI. In October 2022, Ukraine got $1.3 billion in additional emergency funding from the IMF. The National Bank of Ukraine decided to leave its key policy rate unchanged at 25%. The board of the National Bank of Ukraine decided to keep the key policy rate at the level of 25% per annum, Governor of the National Bank of Ukraine Andriy Pyshnyny said at a briefing, and Ukrinform correspondent reports. As reported, the National Bank of Ukraine raised the key policy rate to 10% in January 2022. With the beginning of military aggression, the rate remained unchanged. However, already on June 3, 2022, the key policy rate was raised from 10 to 25%. The invaders brought several Grad MLRS to the territory of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant and prepare provocations. Russists brought several Grad MLRS to the territory of the captured Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant yesterday. The invaders placed these weapons near Power Unit Number 6, right next to the territory of the plant's spent fuel storage facility, where some defensive structures were previously built in a secret mode, violating all nuclear and radiation safety norms, National Nuclear Energy Generating Company Energoatom posted on Telegram. Energoatom considers that the invaders are likely to launch Grad MLRS strikes on the opposite bank of the Dnipro River, in particular Nikopol and Marinets towns, directly from the ZNPP's territory, shielding themselves with power units and spent fuel storage facility. We appeal to the IAEA and the entire international atomic energy community, informing about the placement of additional Grad MLRS directly on ZNPP's territory. And we once again call for the creation of a safety zone inside and around the plant for its complete demilitarization and deoccupation, Energoatom said. As reported, Russian troops captured the ZNPP on March 4. Since then, the invaders have placed military equipment and ammunition on the plant's territory, constantly shelling both the surrounding area and the plant itself, destroying power lines and causing external power outages. OL. On Thursday, December 8, 3 ships carrying 78,600 tons of agricultural products left the seaports of Odessa region bound for Africa and Asia. Grain Initiative, 3 ships carrying 78,600 tons of agricultural products for Africa and Asia left the ports of Odessa region, the press service of the Ministry of Infrastructure of Ukraine posted on Facebook. In particular, Fulmer's cargo vessel will deliver 11,500 tons of agricultural products to Egypt. Currently, 20 ships are being processed in the ports of Odessa region. A total of 557,400 tons of Ukrainian agricultural products are loaded onto them. 4 ships with 80,000 tons of foodstuffs are moving along the grain corridor. Since August 1, 531 ships have left the ports of Odessa region, exporting 13.3 million tons of Ukrainian foodstuffs to the countries of Asia, Europe, and Africa. As reported, in Istanbul on November 17, Ukraine, the United Nations, and Turkey agreed to extend the initiative for the safe transportation of agricultural products across the Black Sea for another 120 days. It started working on July 22. Photo, Ministry of Infrastructure OL. On the morning of December 8, Russian troops again shelled the border areas of Sumy region, the settlements of Sosnivka and Kodin. The army of the occupiers once again shelled the border areas of Sumy region. From 10:25 to 10:45, 20 strikes, presumably from 120 mm mortar, on the area of Sosnivka village were reported, the press service of the Operational Command North posted on Facebook. In addition, 5 shots presumably from an automatic grenade launcher were reported from 10:43 to 10:47, and small arms shots, in the area of Kodin. From 11:50 to 11:55, another strike on this village was launched. It is known about 5 shots, probably from 82 mm mortar. No casualties among military personnel or civilians, and damages to military equipment or civilian infrastructure were recorded. OL. In Donetsk region, Russian invaders opened fire on many towns in different areas of the front line at night and in the morning, killing 2 civilians and injuring 5 more. At night, the Russians continued to shell different areas of the front line. In Donetsk direction, the outskirts of Marinka and Okaratyne communities were periodically struck at night, and Avdiivka came under artillery fire thrice in the morning. Nobody was injured. In Horlivka direction, 2 people were killed, in Bakhmut and Ivanovsk. 2 more people were injured in Bakhmut, Pavlo Kirilenko, head of the Donetsk Regional Military Administration, posted on Telegram. According to him, 3 people were also injured in Russian shelling in Lysychansk direction. We thoroughly document all Russian crimes, Kirilenko stressed. As reported, Donetsk region is under constant Russian fire and has problems with electricity, heat, and water supply. OL. President of the International Committee of the Red Cross Mirjana Spoljaric arrived in Ukraine for a 4-day visit. I've arrived in Ukraine for a 4-day visit. Here, civilians are paying an enormous price in the deadly hostilities. Today I'll meet with people in Mykolaiv and Kherson Oblast who are facing a desperate winter, and meet the International Committee of the Red Cross in Ukraine and Ukrainian Red Cross teams working to help, Spoljaric posted on Twitter. I've arrived in Ukraine for a 4-day visit. Here civilians are paying an enormous price in the deadly hostilities. Today I'll meet with people in Mykolaiv and Kherson Oblast who are facing a desperate winter, and meet the at ICRC_UA and at Red Cross Ukraine teams working to help. pic.twitter.com/JW51RCKVKM, Mirjana Spoljaric, at ICRC President, December 8, 2022. As reported, the ICRC representatives made a 2-day visit to Ukrainian prisoners of war last week. Another visit is expected this week. In parallel with the visits to the Ukrainian prisoners of war, the ICRC representatives also visited the Russian ones. The next visits are scheduled for the end of the month. Representatives of the organization contact the families of POWs and convey messages from them. Books, personal hygiene products, blankets, and warm clothes were also brought to the prisoners of war. OL. A package of countermeasures is being prepared in response to Russia's night shelling of Mykolaiv city. Terrorists struck Mykolaiv again. There was no shelling for almost a month. We talked to the military. We are preparing a separate set of countermeasures triggered by what the invaders, did. They specifically went to the front line and deliberately struck Mykolaiv without any military task, Vitaly Kim, head of the Mykolaiv Regional Military Administration, posted on Telegram. According to him, the invaders aimed pointing a finger at the sky on Google Maps, so the reaction will be appropriate. As reported, at least 21 pieces of equipment were damaged in Mykolaiv as a result of the S-300 missile attack on transport enterprises last night. The Ukrainian Armed Forces have received 7 samples of Ukrainian-made in the past month. Ukraine's Defense Minister Oleksiy Reznikov said this in a Facebook post, Ukrinform reports. Earlier, the army accepted 1 or 2 samples of UAVs per year for operation. For comparison, in the last 30 days, 7 samples of Ukrainian-made UAVs were admitted to operation in the Ukrainian Armed Forces, he said. According to him, to simplify interaction with manufacturers, a website has been created where every developer who has a ready-made product can submit an application to Ukraine's Ministry of Defense for admission to the operation of their product. Official admission to operation means that the Ministry of Defense can purchase products, and the Ukrainian Armed Forces can use them. Earlier, this procedure took 1.5 or 2 years, the minister said. Currently, 19 more applications are being considered for the admission of Ukrainian-made UAVs to operation. We plan to make a decision on them by the end of the year, Reznikov said. Today we were talking about those news. Podolyak, attacks on energy system, nuclear intimidation are Kremlin's bets for this winter. International assistance to Ukraine will exceed $31 billion by year-end NBU. NBU leaves key policy rate at 25%. Invaders deliver Grad MLRS to Zaporizhzhia NPP, preparing provocations, Energoatom. Grain corridor, 3 more ships leave Ukrainian ports. 30 enemy shells fired at border areas of Sumy region. Russians hit Donetsk region at night, killing 2 civilians. ICRC President Mirjana Spoljaric arrives in Ukraine. Armed Forces of Ukraine preparing set of countermeasures in response to attack on Mykolaiv, Governor Kim. Ukrainian Armed Forces received 7 samples of Ukrainian-made UAVs in past month, Reznikov.